All right, thanks, Mike. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys for coming out. Very exciting time for us as we get the 2017 season kicked off. Been a great camp, but been a long camp, and our guys are really excited to get a chance to go play somebody else. It's so unique. You know, we don't have scrimmages like you do in high school. We don't have preseason games like you do in the NFL. And with time period being extended, I feel like we did some things creatively to change up the schedule to keep our guys fresh and excited. But they certainly have been counting down towards this week, and they and all of us are very much looking forward to getting the season kicked off here at home against the UTEP team that we've had a chance to start preparing for and start to take a look at. Head coach Sean Kugler's a guy that's been there a few years. He's got an NFL background, offensive line background. Has done a really nice job for them there. Team that was 4-8 last season, but as we look at it, probably finished on the strongest note in their win against North Texas. There at the end of the season, really played well on both sides of the ball and dominated that game. And so they've got some really nice returning players. Quarterback Ryan Metz is a returning starter. Guy does a lot of really good things on film, throws the ball well, but also presents some problems athletically. Maybe the guy that stands out more than anybody on their team is Will Hernandez, our offensive lineman. He's a preseason All-American. And even with all the good teams that we're going to play this year, I don't know that we'll play an offensive lineman individually any better than this guy for the rest of the season. He's fantastic. He's got a bright future. Looks like a guy that has a chance to play on Sundays for a long time. Defensively, you know, it really starts with Alvin Jones, a guy for them that plays an inside linebacker position. He's a guy that right when you turn on the tape stands out, makes a lot of plays for them, and looks like he's also one of their emotional leaders as well. So, you know, certainly going to be a challenge for us in that all first games are. You don't really know exactly what you have until you get out there and get a chance to compete against somebody else. And so our guys are very much looking forward to this game and a chance to play UTEP. A couple notes for us going in, and then we'll get some questions. I know this will get asked in a minute. So some of the guys that we are planning on redshirting that could change, but the guys that we are planning on redshirting, Adrian Ely, Marquise Hayes, Tyrese Robinson, those on the offensive line, not a surprise with all the returners that we have coming back. And then Creed Humphrey's a guy we're still debating and have yet to make that decision. Kennedy Brooks and Levi Draper both have had season-ending shoulder surgery, so those guys will be out this year and should both be ready to go for spring ball. And then on defense as well, Jakari Daly, Zach McKinney, and Troy James, all three of those guys, we feel like at this point are headed towards a redshirt year. They've all shown good promise, and we're excited about them, but that is the plan going forward. The other true freshmen, if I didn't name their names, obviously we're considering playing them or feel certain that we're going to play. There's a few that we know right off the top. C.D. Lamb will play, Robert Barnes, Trey Norwood, Trey Sermon. So a couple of guys there that we feel pretty certain will play. Tyrese Lott will play. Only guy out for this week is Ricky DeBerry. He's out for medical reasons. Everybody else looks like should be good to go. Other thing I want to announce is Kyler Murray will be the backup quarterback. Made that decision a few days ago. And the thing that probably weighed most heavily into that decision is the opportunity to redshirt Austin Kendall. Felt like all along going into this competition and a conversation that I had with both those guys going into it is if there was not just a clear separation that we would probably lean towards doing that for a few reasons. Again, the chance to redshirt Austin felt like I used the words with him, you took one for the team, and that's the way it played out. But obviously last year he came into a situation that was much different than the situation when he signed the letter of intent and when he committed to come play for us. And that all of a sudden he's thrust into the backup role. You lose a lot of things that when you play early like that, you lose a year of development. And I think sometimes that can hurt guys on the back end. So our plan hopefully is to be able to redshirt him. He had a phenomenal camp. He and Kyler were neck and neck. But our plan is to redshirt him, let him develop, and then be ready to go at it this spring. So, again, that decision was made in large part due to the fact that we could redshirt him. Had that not been the case, I don't think we would have been announcing this. I think we probably would have played it out into the fall. Tanner Schaefer will be the third quarterback, and we'll go forward with that as far as the depth chart. So the other thing that we would announce is Austin Seibert will start at all three of the kicking positions. He'll kick off, kick field goals, and will punt. We'll see how that goes throughout the year. We've got some intriguing options behind him, but nobody's ready to take that job from him right now, and we're going to make somebody come take it. Like we said earlier, don't feel the need to just take one thing off of him just because. We feel like somebody's got to go take that job from him, and to that point, and right now that has not happened. So from there, we'll open it up for questions.
Who's your starting running back?
Well, I don't know yet. I really don't. They're all going to play. I feel confident all four of those guys bring something good to the table. But I do feel like with all four of them, we need to see more game action. And so that determination of who we have out there for the first play of the game and truly start will be made later in the week, but not ready to announce that now.
Why is there no depth chart? Apparently this is the first time in the modern era here at OU there hasn't been one.
Yeah, I don't know about the modern era. This is we're not ready to name one, just simply like that. I feel like by Wednesday we'll be a little bit closer and can give you a little bit more accurate representation of where we're really at. I could go put something together right now that had "or" on it 15 times. That probably wouldn't help you guys out too much. So we do, and we told these guys from the beginning. I felt like it was important. Anytime there's a new head coach, that when you come in, you really start from scratch. And I felt like it was important that not to just be lip service with these guys. They understand that, we told them from day one, what you've done in the past is great, but that will be a starting point for us for the first day of fall camp. And then after that, it is what have you done for us lately? And so we're going to continue with that.
Coach, what are you looking forward to most with your first game as head coach?
Just a chance to compete, that's why we all do this. And fall camp has been competitive, but I'm excited to see our team compete as a whole and a chance to go do it against somebody else. Of course, you appreciate every game that you get to play. That's such an incredible venue like we have here at Oklahoma. But I would say just a chance to get back out there and compete against somebody else.
Lincoln, with Kyler Murray, you know what he did at Allen High School and the style of game he had then. He's several years removed from that. Could you talk about his skill set now at this point in his career and what he brings to your offense?
Yeah, he's grown a lot. And I know what he did at Allen and A&M, but obviously a lot more just familiar, with his time here. And I feel like he's come a long way as a quarterback, mentally. I think he probably in some similar fashion to Baker has grown from the fact that he was thrown in the fire early and then had some time, in the middle where he was kind of off the grid. And but I think that time has served him well. I think he's a more polished, more complete player right now than he's been.
Who's bringing back Hunt, Hicks?
Yeah, still have some battles going there, but the names that I fully expect to see out there: C.D. Lamb, Jeff Badette, Marcellus Sutton, Michael Jones, and Rodney Anderson. Those are the guys that we're really looking at closely right now. Kickoff returns. Jeff Badette's probably been the one that has stood out the most right now, but we've still going to look at a few of the others. And then punt returns right now, C.D. Lamb would top the list if we played tomorrow.
Lincoln, you obviously got a lot of guys from Southern Texas on this team and everything that's going on down there right now. How do you balance checking in with them, making sure they're ready to go? It has to be a juggling act a little bit.
Yeah, it hadn't been a juggling act for us. It has been for them. We're pretty used to checking in on our guys, for all kinds of different reasons. But yeah, this one obviously, a lot more serious than normal. It's a hard thing because you've almost kind of got two different sides of it. You've got the side of your players who are they're worried about what's going on at home. You know, they're in the middle of starting school, they're starting game week, they've got, you know, all kinds of different things running through their heads. So we've tried to be there to support our guys, to give them people to talk to put an arm around their shoulder. We're able to do a few things through our athletic department financially to help with some of their families, and you know, Joe and our administration have been very, very supportive with that. A lot of our guys have taken, you know, all the money that they get scholarship-wise and send it home. You know, and so it's a tough deal. And then of course the support for the families. You know, we get to know these people, you know, so much through recruiting when they come up for games. I mean, they've entrusted us with their sons, so it's difficult, but it's been you know, I think our team's been real supportive around those guys. I think for the most part our guys, we've had some homes that have had major damage and people relocated, but I don't think we've had anything over the top serious so far. So I think our guys and their families have been, you know, fortunate in that aspect.
So everyone accounted for
Yes.
as much as can be expected?
Yes.
Sounds like it's been a more physical camp than some in the past. How are you guys just general health-wise coming out of camp?
We're pretty good. I mean, we used kind of the end of this last week to try to bring their bodies back a little bit. We had initially planned on practicing this last Saturday, but we made a decision late in the week that we'd had a physical enough camp and that would be more beneficial to give these guys the day off. And so I feel like they're starting to come back, though. I love the physicality and the effort during camp. I think it was really, really good, and we're planning on seeing a lot of that carry over.
How did you come to the decision to make camp more physical this year?
Oh, it was a decision within the whole staff, just trying to find some ways that we felt like that we could be a little bit better. And I don't think there's ever a blanket answer for that. I think you just got to be able to look at each team differently and ask the simple question, you know, what do we need to play at the highest level? And when we looked at this team, the makeup, you know, the returning guys, the not returning guys, I mean, all of that, it just made sense for us as a staff to add a little bit of physicality to it.
You said the first game is always a challenge no matter who you're playing. How much emphasis have you put on starting fast this year compared to like what happened last year?
Yeah, a lot. It's something we as a team have talked a lot about. It's something we've talked a lot about since the day the season ended, you know, last year, the day after the Sugar Bowl. We knew as a team that, you know, where we might have been had we started just a little bit faster, one game better probably. And so yeah, it's definitely been on the minds of this team and everybody in this program, and we've all had to go back and look in the mirror and try to find ways of, you know, where did we not do a good enough job to be ready to play early? Where did the players not do a good enough job? And so, you know, we've adjusted a few things, and we've challenged them with it, challenged ourselves with it, and we'll see how good a job we did here pretty quickly.
Looking at receiver, what are you looking at there, and what do you think about that group going in? It seems like you guys always come up with a guy or two that really emerges in college football.
Yeah, Phil, not exactly like the running back situation. We have more experience back at receiver, more guys that have played more snaps, but in a similar way, I feel like we'll play a lot of guys early, try to get a look at, again, I've kind of said the whole time, the two groups. You've got the guys that have played, you know, the Meads, the Smallwoods, Andrews, you know, A.D. Miller, all those guys, Michael Jones. You know, we'll see who's ready to take the next step out of that group. And then we've got, again, some of these young guys that have not played any or very little that we'll get a look at them and see if we think they're as ready to go as some of them look right now.
What about Badet, who has played?
Say that again.
What about Badet, who has played?
Yeah, he's really come along. You could tell early in camp that he was not with us, you know, in spring ball, you know, where the past grad transfers like Geno Lewis, there was a big difference, you know. Not having spring ball for a grad transfer hurts, but at the same time, especially this back half of camp, he started to really settle in and flash some of the ability that he has. So he's going to be right in that mix. It's going to get some reps and some opportunities, and if he makes the most of them, I would anticipate his number would grow.
Get back to the physical part. It's a marathon of a season. How much do you put into that? You got to get ready for big games coming up in September, but you also got to have them ready for November. How much do you look into that when you're making those camp decisions?
Well, I've always believed that the spring and fall camp, like, to me, those really impact the first 3 games. You know, to me, I mean, that's after that point, it's about how you're improving throughout the year. I don't know that I don't know that something you do in spring ball has a large effect on what you do in game number 9. Other than the obvious things of teaching your system and how well they're coached and all that. I'm not saying that, but I think so we felt like we wanted to get it as game-like as possible early, give us a chance to play a little bit better early, hopefully. And then, but then also balance being smart with it so that we've got a fresh football team, going in here at the beginning. And then I think once we get into it, we've got to continue to find the ways to improve like we've done the last few years. I would argue that, that we had done that as well as anybody in the country over the last 2 years. So
when you have a big game in week 2, do you try to stay as basic as you can in week 1 to not show your hand for what you have planned for week 2?
No, we're just going to try to beat UTEP, and whatever. If there's a play or a scheme or anything like that we think that will help us beat UTEP, then we're going to use it.
Coach, talk about your play calling philosophy. Do you script a certain number of plays to start a game?
No. Is that good philosophy? No, we just wing it. I don't even. I'm serious. We don't even know what the first play call is until we get in the huddle. I'm serious. I know you don't believe me, but I am serious.
When you talk about amping up the physicality at camp, was that this discussion that started before Bob left, or is that something that started, just right before camp started, or?
No, I think it was something that started even before. I mean, I don't know that. It's been a little more physical in some ways. It hasn't been like this is a totally different camp, foreign to anything we've done over the last 2 years. I mean, we've had physical camps here, and I would argue that we maybe were even a little bit more physical last year in camp as opposed to our first year here. But I again just think it goes back to each individual team, and you can't say, well, I'm going to have more physical camp every year. Sometimes that's not what your team needs. And so that's just – I think we all felt that's what would be good for us going into last year, and felt it even before this transition happened.
Lincoln, you mentioned CeeDee Lamb as a punt returner. That's usually a position, a lot of responsibility for a kid to be a true freshman, and you being willing to put him out there. Does he show a certain amount of maturity level maybe that you don't see with kids that young?
Yeah, he's again. I don't want to anoint guys, but he's given us enough confidence that we feel like he could go in there and do a good job right now. Now, certainly, he's got to go do it, and we've got some other guys, there too that I think will as well. But he's handled things very well so far, and if he continues to handle them well, not just with that, but offensively, I think his role will grow.
You said that Seibert's going to do all 3. Are you concerned that he's tired? Last year, his longest field goal was 39 yards. Is that a concern?
It was. I think there's 2 things that we feel like, if that does remain the same, are going to be better. I think, one, we learned about how you've got to practice those guys and that fine line between getting him enough work at all 3 but not wearing him down. So we've used – Coach Boulware and his staff have used a little bit more of an abbreviated practice schedule with him to get the work done, but also to keep him fresh. And then I think, too, for him, he's grown a lot mentally on handling all that, because they're 3 very, very different jobs. And to be able to transition back and forth in between the game mentally, I think in his first year was tough. But I think he's a lot more prepared to handle it, and I think we've done a better job of helping him get ready to do it.
What's your advice to your team, or your approach to your team when it comes to listening to outside information? Be it good or bad, preseason teams, or look for a team to be disappointing. How do you approach it with your team?
Yeah, we really teach them to not listen to the noise. There's a lot of it out there, and it's something that not just for the team, but us as coaches. You've got to keep your priorities straight, and in this world today, it's probably more difficult than it's ever been. And I honestly think some of the most dangerous noise out there for these guys is positive. Everybody loves to hear, if you do something good, everybody loves to hear somebody say something good about them. And so you've got to learn to be able to block that out, to refocus each week and each day on what you got to get accomplished. And that's our job as coaches, to help zero them in on that.
Back in June, when you sat here, being named the head coach, the idea of everybody was saying, the players, Baker, I think Ruff and Coach Leach, everybody was saying, Bob Stoops obviously, he's ready. Lincoln Riley's ready. Now that you're in game week, has your perspective changed on that? Were you ready on June 7th? Have you learned things that maybe illustrated you weren't ready? or have you? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I guess we'll find out. Yeah. You know, I have not felt. Have I learned things? Yes, of course I have, and I'll continue to. But there's not one part of this that I felt unprepared for. So that's felt good, and a lot of that again has been the people around me, giving me the support. You know, delegating more here and there. You know, I think the people around me have been a big part of that, but not for 1 second have I felt unprepared.
Baker said he's there for you if you have any questions for him.
I'm sure he is.
Does this Monday feel different in the past Mondays that you've had, of first game weeks being offensive player, the different positions that you've had? Does this Monday feel different than those of the first game week?
Other than this, no. Other than that, other than coming up here and spending a few minutes with you guys, really not much. You know, staff meetings is normal and game planning, and it feels good to get back in that mode.
I think with special teams, it's interesting because a defensive coach can put his spin on it, an offensive coach can put his spin on it in different ways. Bob was always somebody that was heavily involved in that. Is that something that you've kind of built a relationship with Jay and what your expectations are for special teams?
Yeah, I think it's been good, having been in the same room with him now for the last few years where we've already built up a lot of trust and relationship. I've got a lot of respect and confidence in him as a special teams coordinator, and a lot of the things we do, I'm going to defer to him. And we've had some great conversations through the summer months and through camps about, just philosophies and making sure that we're on the same page. So I feel very comfortable with where we're at, and I'll, there's some parts of it that I'm going to be involved with. There's a lot of it that I'm going to let Jay and our special teams assistants handle.
Lincoln, how did your offensive guard situation work out? Are you going to rotate 3 guys?
Yeah, still a little bit of kind of wait and see. I feel like obviously we feel like we've got 3 starters at 2 positions, and so I think there's a better chance that you could see us rotating some players in and out there than maybe what we've done in the past, just because of that depth and experience we have there.
When you're starting a true freshman at middle linebacker, you obviously think he can get the job done. But are there some similarities in playing a young guy maybe at quarterback? That's the importance of that defensive position. You sort of just have to roll with some of the negatives that are sure to come with him being a young guy.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. There's going to be some challenges there. If Kenneth does indeed start there will definitely be some challenges. But the guy's physically so good, and he's just getting better so fast that he's going to make a lot of plays right now, and it'll be a matter of time before he's making just about all of them. And so we feel really, really good about his development. And just prototypically, I don't know at least in the 2.5, 3 years that I've been here that we've had a better linebacker physically than what this guy is. And so and that's as a true freshman. So he's still got, again, like these other guys, he's still got to go prove it on Saturdays, but he certainly looks the part right now.
Is John Michael Terry going to be ready to play Saturday?
Yeah, John Michael will be available. Yes.
What's that quarterback competition been like?
About like the offensive guard, honestly. I feel like we've got 3 starters there, and obviously we'll narrow that down, and Kerry will have probably a good rotation going with those guys, but. Thrilled to have that depth. Of course, with the league we play in, the schedule we play, you're going to need it. It was obviously a huge factor, early in the year last year, especially until that got settled in. And I think we're in a much better place going forward there with all 3 of those guys, Purnell, JT, and Jordan Parker. And then, I've been real impressed with Trey Brown, Trey Norwood, some of these young corners that we think are going to be very, very good players, and would not be hesitant at all right now to throw those guys in the mix.
Coach Baker came here with kind of a chip on his shoulder, kind of an overlooked guy, but now obviously he's had a great deal of success, Heisman finalist. Does he still have that chip on his shoulder, or has that kind of evolved into something else?
No, I'd say it's still there. I think if you have that, then you have it. I don't think it ever goes away, and at least if it's real, and with him it certainly is real.
Across the country, you see every week there's a quarterback that's named the starter somewhere, and he's transferred from somewhere else, it seems. That's a position that lends itself to the idea that I have to go somewhere else if I want to play. There's only one quarterback. You have one yourself in Baker, believe it or not. It seems like he's been here so long he doesn't seem like a transfer, but Can you address maybe that phenomenon of a guy, and I'm not throwing him under the bus here, but say you have a guy on your roster who didn't get named the backup quarterback this year. Maybe he's going to look at greener pasture. You know what I'm saying? You have to consider the future.
Well, it's just how it is now. I mean, that's just, guys are not as patient to do it. I've said, I can remember, again, early in my coaching career at Texas Tech where we had either 3 or 4, I think it was 4 fifth-year senior starters in a row. I mean, that will never happen again. I mean, human beings just aren't that patient anymore. And I think some of the grad transfer rules, some of those have lent itself to a little bit more as well. But I think a few things, a few years ago when it happened, when Cody Thomas decided to go play baseball and Justice and Trevor both left, I couldn't argue with any of the 3 of them. I mean, I would have loved for any of the 3 to stay, but it made sense for all 3 of them. And so, and we're never going to hold the kid back if we think there's a better opportunity for him somewhere else. So I don't think that we're going to have that issue on this roster anytime soon. I think we've got some guys that we all feel like are going to be really, really good players here. But at the same time, with that position in this day and age, you always got to be ready, and that's why you got to recruit really well there, and you've got to be able to think ahead because you don't want to get caught. And I think we've done that with the guys we've brought in, and then the next couple that are coming in here as well.
What qualities do you see in Austin that would allow him to be patient and stay here and try to win that job?
Well, just for him, this is the best thing for him. I mean, even him, if he would have been the outright guy and won the number 2 job, for him down the line is probably not the best thing. He's been a backup. He's done all that. And if Baker continues to play the way he does and stays healthy, it would probably be a lot of the same. And so I think it's good for him physically. It's going to be good for him mentally. When it's different when you're preparing to be a backup, and it's different when you don't really have anything to prepare for. You can just go cut loose physically, cut loose mentally, and really get better, make strides. And we've got a pretty unique schedule, we think, set out for him, one that we used with Kyler last year, and I think we're going to be able to expand on this year to continue his development. Because, I mean, based on what I saw in camp, when he's back in spring next year, he'll be right in the middle of it.
If Baker had, say, a bad sprained ankle and was out for 4 or 5 weeks, would Kyler, is he capable of running the same offense, or would you have to make some alterations?
Oh, no, we'd run our offense, and he would do it very well.
So throwing the football from the pocket.
Oh, absolutely. No, this guy he can do it all. Absolutely.
Is it a good or bad thing that none of the running backs have separated from each other?
We'll find out. We'll find out. You really base what you see on them in the live scrimmages that we've done, and I've seen some things there that are very, very encouraging. Now, nobody's going to go and scrimmage, 5 different times during fall camp. You just don't really do that anymore. So, in the limited live snaps I've seen, I'm encouraged. I think we've got some guys that are going to be difficult to tackle and that understand what we're doing. But at the same time, again, we got to go see them do it, and so we'll give them some opportunities, and hopefully running by on the offensive line we have, they'll get some good ones, and I think that may be a group that we just continue to learn about and evolve as the year goes on.
As electrifying as Kyler Murray is with the ball in his hands, does him being the backup absolutely preclude him from being in a wildcat package or a wide receiver package or anything like that?
I could sit here and give you some good long answer, but I'm not ever going to talk about what we might or might not use somebody. I just can't. So I'm sorry.
In the offseason, you guys hired Eric Stryker and Ty Darlington to an analyst and quality control position. What's kind of your strategy for how you hire those guys, what type of guys you hire, and how you use them during the week?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. When we hired Eric, we were really looking for somebody. And on the recruiting side of it, we've tried to add to that staff a little bit. And, again, that's something that Joe Castiglio and his group have been really, really great for us as far as being able to add and grow in that area. That was an area we felt like we needed to catch up a little bit, and I think we have. He really relates with all of these recruits incredibly well, families. I like that he's a guy that's not from this part of the country, and obviously we're recruiting so national that it's I think good that he can kind of give his perspective on being a guy from Florida that had to come all the way out here. He's smart. He's going to be a good young coach, or whatever aspect of it he decides to finish off in. And like I said, the fact that he played here is just a bonus. And Ty, a lot of the same. His unique experiences, how his accomplishments as a player, his accomplishments off the field, what he did academically, what he did in the community. How smart he is. I mean, those guys just jumped out at me as no-brainer hires. And I even remember thinking when they were seniors, my first year here, that, if those guys decide to go into coaching, they're going to be damn good at it. So they've been great additions for us. So Eric does a lot of things with us recruiting-wise right now. He'll work with Drew Hill. And then I also should announce, because you had asked me about this, we've hired Annie Hansen from the University of North Carolina. She's going to be our executive director of recruiting. She'll run all recruiting operations. Annie's a former employee and athlete here, student athlete. Got to know her a little bit before she left, and then kept up with her. She'd done a great job with Larry Fedora at North Carolina over the last few years. So we're thrilled to get her back. Today's actually her first day, so good to have her back, and think she's going to continue to help us. Hopefully, we've recruited great over the last few years, and I think she's going to make us just a little bit better. And so Eric will work hand in hand with Drew Hill and with Annie. Ty, we're using more as a true quality control on the offensive side of the ball. He's working closely with me on a lot of different projects. He's a guy that's taken some of the things day to day that I did, and along with the rest of the offensive staff, helping me delegate and find a little bit more time.
Is that a new position that Annie's taken over, one that hasn't been here before?
Not necessarily new. Well, we're replacing Jeeb Hossein with that, but it's new in terms of responsibilities and how we're structuring the recruiting staff.
What's the one thing
Do you have a status on Charleston Rambo?
Yeah, up in there right now. Up in there. He's a guy we think's good enough to do it. Got to decide if he's ready and if the situation's right. So still haven't made that determination yet.
What's the one thing you're most happy about coming out of summer camp going into game week?
That is finally here. Yeah, that, and I would just say too how our players have handled this whole transition. Just even they handled it well when it first happened, but then their acceptance and their buy-in level even early has been, to me, very impressive, and I think will be key for us, especially early in the year. So I feel really good about where our team is mentally, from a leadership standpoint. I like this team.
Have you talked to any other head coaches who call their own plays in a game and what it's like?
Yeah, not as much since I was named the head coach. I did quite a bit before, just starting to, when I felt like that I might be close to potentially getting an opportunity somewhere. That was some of the conversations that I had, because I felt like that was something that I would want to do. And so, I've talked to Mike, Cliff, some of those guys certainly kind of within this family, and a few others as well.
Lincoln, what was it like to be able to award Jackson with a scholarship?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it was a great way to end the week. He's earned it. And I've told you guys before, that always, really hits me on a different level because I was a walk-on. So he's been great in the classroom for us, done a really nice job on the field in any role that we've asked him to do. So to be able to reward him with that and do it in front of his teammates, and you just saw kind of their sheer excitement. So it was a neat moment for our whole team.
Elaborate on describing the scene.
Do what?
Can you elaborate on describe the scene
with Jackson? Yeah, we kind of fooled him. I kind of recognized him for some things he'd done well with the team, and then just told him to break the team down. And so I don't know if he thought he was getting a scholarship, and then he definitely thought he wasn't. And then we jumped in, and then it was just kind of pandemonium from there. It was I had to get out of there. I told him that I bailed out of there because I was going to get trampled in there, I think. So the guys were excited. It was just I don't think there's one guy on the team that would have argued with that decision.
Lincoln, how mindful were you with that extra week in camp of just trying? I know you took the day off and went to Topgolf and had that day, but just trying to keep guys, ramped up to where they weren't too burnt out on practicing.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time thinking about it, a lot of time talking about it, and we didn't necessarily lessen the physicality, as we've said, or the amount of time, but just trying to change things up. You know, if you go practice the same way for 5 straight weeks and don't hit anybody else, it's, you know, human nature. You're going to get a little discouraged with it, a little tired of it. And so I thought the staff had some great ideas. We did change some things up the way we met. Like I said, did a few more game-like type scenarios. Got under the lights a little bit more. We just tried to change it up as much as we could, and again, our players responded to it very well.
Are you as prepared as you would hope to be, or as you hoped you would be when you took the job? Are you ready?
Talking about me or the team?
Well, really both, but really more the team.
Yeah, no, I think so. I feel very confident about the camp we've had. I just feel really good about this team. I just like the way they prepare, like the way they go about their business. I've appreciated the consistent competition throughout camp on really all 3 sides of the ball. So, again, you learn a lot that first one, but I'm confident about this group going in.
Lincoln, you talked about Austin's potential for growth this year as he planned redshirt. Will you use him as a scout team quarterback? Will you use someone else in that role?
No, we'll use him there. I mean, those reps against a starting defense and a caliber defense that we feel we're going to have are invaluable. The timing, the chance to compete against them, the chance to lead a scout team group, just to practice the way you lead guys. And then in this league, a lot of people are very similar offensively, so it's not like he's going to be running the wishbone back there. You know what I mean? And so he's going to get some good life throws. We're going to scrimmage our young guys some throughout the year as well to try to continue to develop them, which we hadn't done in the last few years here. And so trying to do a few more things to continue his and some of these other guys' development.
Obviously the goal is to win on Saturday, but from your perspective, are there some nuanced areas where you would deem things successful, whether it's what your offense does or the way you see the defense do certain things? Are there some areas where you're going to be looking a little differently than just at sheer stats and numbers?
Yeah, I would say, we've talked a lot about communication in this first game. It's so important. There's always so many different challenges, and because people don't realize the amount of communication that goes on from coach to coach, coach to player, and player to player within a game. I mean, it's really, when you really look back at it, it's really fascinating. I mean, so how well we can communicate. I think you always, at the first game, we're going to look at penalties, and how well you play with the officials there playing a clean game. And then, again, how well you block and tackle. You don't do it a ton throughout the year, especially the live tackling portion of it. So I know that's something, as a defense, we've talked a lot about. And then probably the last thing is just, how well our team plays together, playing complementary football, being able to capitalize off the good things that each other does, or if there's a tough moment in the game, being able to respond as a team, and so seeing kind of the overall personality of what your team's starting to become.